By now, you've seen the headline, you've heard about it. Trump had a major strike on Iran planned for Tuesday, for today, and hours before executing it, he called it off. Why? Because the Emir of Qatar, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and the President of the UAE picked up the phone and asked him to wait, and he listened to them. That's what he did. He gave in to the pressure from the Gulf. So here's the key takeaway that I want to drill down on. The Gulf states have a different objective. They have a different desired outcome of this war than the Americans and certainly than the Israelis. They don't want Iran destroyed. They don't want regime change. They want Iran weak but standing because a free, democratic, pro-Western Iran is actually a bigger threat to their own grip on power than the mullahs are. And last night they proved it. The three Gulf leaders called the president of the United States and told him to stand down from a military strike, and he stood down. And that's what I want to expand on in this video. And we're going to show you how this whole thing played out, what the whole chessboard looks like. So buckle up. Here's what makes this whole thing even more interesting. 4 days ago, Iranian regime media on WANA published an analytical piece that described exactly this dynamic. They described the Gulf states kind of playing both sides a little bit. Trump caught in a strategic trap that he can't escape. The U.S. operating from a position of weakness or conflictedness that it won't admit to. And then today, the same outlet published a follow-up openly declaring, and I'm going to quote this directly, that for the first time in this conflict, the United States spoke not from a position of confidence, but from a position of uncertainty. That's the enemy media narrating American paralysis, and they're not wrong. Now, we've been tracking every piece of this together throughout this war, and today I want to show you the evidence, because when you see it laid out, what happened last night stops being a surprise and starts looking like the most predictable thing in the world. Now, for those of you who are new to this channel, let me introduce you to WANA. That's the West Asia News Agency. It's the Iranian regime's English language media outlet. Now, again, if you're new and you're thinking, why would I read Iranian regime media? The answer is that when a totalitarian regime publishes analysis in their regime media, it is very useful because it's not journalism. It's a press release. It's a window into how they see the chessboard. That doesn't mean you take it at face value, but it means that you understand that they are doing their messaging and you read it critically, but it tells you what they believe. It tells you where they want things to go. Okay? That's why we do this. So 4 days ago, they published a piece called A Review of Western Behavior in the Recent West Asia War. And today they've published two follow-ups. We're going to look at these pieces. Let's start with the framework they laid out 4 days ago because it reads today like a prediction that came true overnight. Here's what they wrote 4 days ago about the Gulf states. Contrary to some expectations, we are not witnessing the formation of a comprehensive coalition against Iran. Many countries, particularly in the Persian Gulf region, are seeking to create a balance among actors and prevent the absolute dominance of any single one. This approach, rather than stemming from alignment, is the result of a shared understanding of the danger of instability and its impact on economic development and internal security. There it is, 4 days ago. The Gulf states are not forming a coalition against Iran. They're seeking balance. They're preventing the dominance of any single power, including Iran, but also including Israel or a U.S.-Israel alliance that might actually finish the job. We've been saying this for months on this channel. The Gulf states want Iran weakened, but they do not want the regime replaced. A secular, pro-Western Iran with 90 million people, many of them highly educated and Western-aligned, cosmopolitan, a growing Christian community with massive energy reserves. If that became a reality, this pro-Western democratic Iran, it would be the most powerful country in the region overnight. And it would terrify Riyadh and Abu Dhabi. Culturally, it would be a massive threat to them. And it terrifies them far more than the current mullah regime in Iran in a weakened state does. So when MBS, MBZ, and the Emir of Qatar call Trump, they're not just acting as allies, helping Trump navigate this and helping him win. They're acting as players managing the outcome. And the outcome they're managing toward is not regime change. Here's what else they wrote 4 days ago in this piece. A little bit further up. The situation can be considered a kind of strategic deadlock. They're talking about Trump. The situation can be considered a kind of strategic deadlock, a position where entering a war is costly, yet retreating leads to a weakening of credibility. The result is the adoption of a policy that neither leads to a resolution of the crisis nor allows for its full escalation. Very astute point. So what are they saying here? What did we just read? 4 days ago, here they are describing the deadlock that Trump is in. And last night we watched exactly that deadlock play out in real time. And then today they moved from predicting the trap to describing Trump caught in the trap. So let's go to what they wrote today and see how they describe it there. So this is a piece, why did Trump pull back again at the last minute from striking Iran? And in the piece, they talk about a report that comes out of Washington about a recent report by the New York Times may have revealed the most important piece of the puzzle. The Pentagon reportedly warned Trump that Iran is rapidly building its air defense network, and it has now regained the capability to track U.S. aerial operations. Then it jumps down. I'm jumping down a little bit. The report also noted that after weeks of bombardment, Iran has reactivated many of its buried missile sites, while its commanders have reportedly studied the flight patterns of American warplanes. One U.S. military official admitted that Washington's strikes had mostly destroyed the entrances to missile facilities rather than the infrastructure itself. That point may explain why Trump's tone has shifted repeatedly in recent weeks. One day speaking of ending the war, the next threatening a massive strike, only to later announce another pause. There you go. We've been watching this tension build for months. We have Trump, the deal maker, and then we have Trump, the liberator, right? One day he's talking about the Iranian people rising up and taking their country back. The next day he's talking about making a beautiful deal, about the Venezuela option. And WANA, Iranian state media, they've been watching this every shift, every threat, every walk back, every pause. And all of this feeds into their strategy, which is survive long enough for all of these tensions to do their work. Listen to that quote again. The reality is that Washington now faces in Iran, right there. The reality is that Washington now faces an Iran that has not only survived the war, but according to American officials themselves, adapted to it. There it is. According to American officials themselves, they're quoting our own people against us. And then they had a second piece today. The second piece was called Behind Trump's Retreat on Iran Revealed, a little bit of an awkward title. And there, they lay out some more details of what we saw in that piece, that the Pentagon reportedly warned Trump that Iran has rebuilt its air defenses. We saw that in the first piece. And can now track U.S. aerial operations, that the U.S. strikes destroy the entrances to the missile facilities. But they also added in that Iranian commanders, with possible Russian assistance, studied the flight patterns of the U.S. aircraft and identified vulnerabilities in American operations. Now, all of this could be smoke and mirrors. It could all be bluster. We don't know if it's true or not. But here's the detail that I think landed the hardest inside the Pentagon. The U.S. lost an F-15 in recent weeks, and there was an F-35 that was damaged. And that raised serious alarm that American operational patterns might have become more predictable to the Iranians, because those things happened towards the end of the fighting. We're now 3 months in, a war that was supposed to be over in 4 to 5 weeks. And there's one more thing. Just add this to the mix of the pressures on Trump. There's this New York Times Siena poll that now shows that a majority of American voters believe that going to war with Iran was a mistake. So Trump isn't just caught between the military options. He's also losing control of the domestic narrative, if there's any truth to this polling. And then comes this line in the piece from 4 days ago, and this one really stopped me. Here, let's go back to that piece. Trump launched the war promising a show of strength, but he now finds himself trapped in a costly dilemma. This is it. This is it right here. If he refrains from attacking, he risks appearing weak. If he attacks and fails to achieve decisive results, he could be drawn into a prolonged conflict capable of destabilizing global energy markets, the U.S. economy, and even Washington's Arab allies. They've got their finger on the pulse. And they wrote this before the events of yesterday when the Gulf states called Trump. Think about that. Iranian regime media was describing the president of the United States caught in a trap. And the frustrating thing for us is that they're not wrong. This is what paralysis looks like. And at the very end of the piece, they state their punchline, and of course they bold it. I've pointed this out before. They like to bold 1 or 2 sentences in every piece. For the first time in this conflict, the United States spoke not from a position of confidence, but from a position of uncertainty. I mentioned that near the beginning of this video. And that's not spin. It's an accurate read of what's happening. Now let's talk about why Trump is in this trap. How did he get into this trap? You see, it's not just about Iran. It's about Trump himself. He kind of built the trap. See, when he announced the delay, let's go to that piece in NPR that announces the delay. Here we go. Trump says he's called off Iran's strike at request of Gulf allies because it brings the quote, which you could find online. He said this in the White House yesterday. Listen to Trump. Quote, there seems to be a very good chance that they can work something out. If we can do that without bombing the hell out of them, I'd be very happy. Trump said he had planned, quote, a very major attack, but put it off, quote, for a little while, hopefully, maybe forever. He said America's allies in the Gulf asked him to wait 2 or 3 days because they feel they are close. They are close to a deal with Iran. So we've been tracking this since the beginning. 2 Trumps in the war. Trump, the deal maker, wants a transactional win. Nukes off the table, Hormuz open, declare victory, pivot to the economy before the midterms, take the Venezuela model where you decapitate the top of the regime and work with whoever's left. You call it regime change and move on. And then you have Trump, the liberator. Trump told the Iranian people help is on the way. Trump has repeatedly said that previous presidents for 47 years did nothing about the Iranian regime, and he's not going to leave it to anyone else to deal with, implying that he's not going to leave the IRGC in control, that he's not going to leave any kind of skeleton of the Iranian regime that can rebuild itself and reconstitute all of its nefarious behavior. So which is it? Those 2 Trumps are now in direct conflict. And last night, the Gulf states knew exactly which one to call. They didn't call Trump the liberator. They called Trump the deal maker, and he answered the call. And here's the big question that we have to talk about now. What about Israel? Where's Israel in all of this? Because we know that Israel wanted full-scale attacks and that Netanyahu spoke to Trump a couple days ago. Obviously, we can assume that Bibi was making the case to Trump to go back to large-scale attacks before the Gulf states called. So what did Trump say about Israel regarding the delay? He said that he briefed the Israelis. Notice the language. He didn't say he consulted with them. He didn't say he discussed it with them. He didn't say they agreed with him. He said he briefed them. He told them about it, basically. The divergence between U.S. and Israeli objectives has been a topic I've been talking about since day one. There was this narrative out there, especially in the early weeks, that was promulgated both by the Americans and the Israelis that we're lockstep, we're arm in arm, we're shoulder to shoulder, we're doing everything together, we're consulting with each other daily. And I was pointing out from even before the war started, not only on this channel, but also in all the interviews that I did on various shows, that we have to keep our eye on the simple fact that Israel and the U.S. do not have the same objectives. And we are going to get to a point where they diverge. The U.S. wants the missiles gone. They want Hormuz open. Israel wants the regime gone. Those are not the same thing. And now we have reached a situation where 3 Gulf leaders vetoed a U.S. military strike, which is what Israel wanted, and Israel had no say in the matter. If a deal gets made that leaves the IRGC structure intact, that a deal that satisfies the Gulf states, right? They say that they're close to a deal in a few days. And if the deal satisfies Trump, the deal maker, and everyone just declares victory and goes home, Israel is going to be standing alone saying that this is insufficient. It's not good enough. And watch how fast everything shifts when that happens. Right now, Israel is America's indispensable partner, brothers in arms. The moment Israel rejects the deal, they're going to become the warmongering obstacle to peace. We've seen that movie before because Israel has different objectives. This brings us back to something else that Wana wrote in the piece from 4 days ago. Let's go over to that again. Let me find this section here. Here, it's about the narrative warfare. Here, in today's world, the perception of reality is sometimes more important than reality itself. Actors who can shape the dominant narrative will be able to stabilize their position even under complex field conditions. Interesting sentence. This was Iran's strategy from the beginning. Remember, they've always known they can't win militarily. Their strategy is to survive long enough for the narrative to shift, to survive long enough, to survive until the pressure on Trump to stop becomes greater than the pressure to finish the job, like right now. Until the Gulf states start picking up the phone, until Washington would rather talk about deals instead of talking about victory and freedom for the Iranian people. Until the Iranian regime can publish articles about how the United States looks uncertain. They told us the plan 4 days ago, and here we are. So there you have it, folks. Let's hope this all works out well. Let me also remind you to join us for a very important webinar that's taking place tomorrow. You can still sign up for it. Will America First Stand with Israel? I'm going to be hosting and moderating it, and I'll be joined by Josh Hammer, Senior Editor-at-Large at Newsweek, host of the Josh Hammer Show, Dr. David Wormser of the Center for Security Policy in Washington, D.C., one of the foremost Middle East experts in the world, and Pastor Rob McCoy, who was one of the co-founders of Turning Point USA Faith and was Charlie Kirk's pastor. He was his faith mentor. They traveled a lot together. They were very close, and he knows the America First movement intimately. You can sign up for it by going to Israel365.com/America First. That link should be in the description of this video, or you could scan this QR code and join the webinar. Now, even if you can't make it, it's at 1 p.m. tomorrow, 1 p.m. Wednesday, May 20th. Even if you can't make it at the time, you should still register, because then you will receive in your email the full webinar after it airs, and you can watch it on your own time. So go ahead and register for that webinar, and keep watching, keep sharing. Thank you very much for helping grow the channel, and God bless you all.